The Box is a psychological thriller and science fiction film based on the 1970s short story Button Button by Richard Matheson. The film delves into themes of morality, free will, and cosmic sequences, creating a haunting, suspenseful narrative with existential undertone. Set in 1976 in Richmond, Virginia, the story follows Norma and Arthur Levis, a middle class couple who receives a mysterious box with a button. They are told that pressing the button will grant them a large sum of money, but it will also cause the death of a stranger somewhere in the world. As they grapple with the moral dilemma, they uncover sinister forces at play. The film begins with a cryptic message about a NASA employee named Arlington Stewart who was struck by lightning and subsequently changed. Following this, we are introduced to Norma and Arthur Levis. Norma is a high school teacher with a lamp caused by a childhood medical error that resulted in the amputations of her toes. Arthur is a NASA engineer working on the Winking Mars project, aspiring to become an astronaut. One morning, a package arrives at their doorstep. Inside is a simple wooden box with a glass dome and a red button. Later that day, a disfigured man named Arrington Stewart visits them. He explains the rules. If they press the button, they will receive $1 million in cash. However, pressing the button will cause the death of some they don't know. They have 24 hours to decide. Authors and Norma are financially strained. Authors' astronaut applications has been rejected and Norma School is raising tuition fees for their son. While the offer is tempting but they struggle with the ethical implications, Norma, intrigued and haunted by the mystery, asks Arthur if he believes the offer is real. Arthur dismisses it at first, assuming it is an elaborate psychological test. However, Norma, feeling powerless in her life, is increasingly drawn to the choice. Eventually, unable to resist her curiosity and the rules of money, Norma presses the button. Shortly after pressing the buttons, Arrington Stewart returns and hands them a briefcase filled with $1 million. He then tells them the box will be reprogrammed and given to someone else, someone they do not know. This cryptic statement suggests terrifying implications. Previous recipient of the box had pressed the button, leading to the death of a stranger, which in turn was someone close to them, and now the cycle continues. Arthur and Norma becomes paranoid, fearing they have become part of something much larger and more sinister. Meanwhile, strange events start happening. Arthur Bose at NASA, Norm Cahill hints that something is seriously wrong with Arrington Stewart and suggests Arthur should be careful. Norma's students start acting strangely. One of whom, Charlie, suffers a nosebleed and stares blankly. A man named Jeffrey Carnes is seen suffering from disasters after his wife dies under mysterious circumstances. As investigate, they find disturbing clues that reveals they are being watched by a secretive organizations. Authors and Norma begin to suspect that Arlington Stewart is not an ordinary man. They learn that he had once worked for NASA but was struck by lightning while monitoring a Mars mission. This accident seemingly changed him, giving him a profound, almost supernatural presence. Arthur is lured to a library where he undergoes a bizarre test, choosing between three mysterious water portals labeled salvations, damnations, and eternal damnations. He ultimately selects salvations, but what it means remains ambiguous. Meanwhile, Norma has a horrifying encounters at a wedding where a woman wants her to look into the light for answers. Arthur and Norma piece together that Stewart is part of an extraterrestrial intelligence conducting an experiments on human morality. He is testing whether people will choose personal gains over the lives of others. The final test, a reluctant steward returns, telling them their fate is sealed. However, he presents one of final test. Walder, their young son, is kidnapped and rendered blind and deaf. Stewart offers them another choice. If Arthur kills Norma, Walder will be restored, but they will lose each other forever. If they refuse, Walder will remain permanently blind and deaf. Arthur's devastated ultimately decide to shoot Norma, sacrificing her to save their son. As Stewart departs, police arrives, arresting Arthur. They inform him that the box has been reset and given to another couple who, if they press the button, will cause his death just as Norma's actions led to someone else. As its core, the box explores humans' morality. The button is a metaphor for selfish decision making, choosing personal gain without considering distant consequences. Even decision ripples outwards, affecting unseen lives. Steward represent as all powerful force that manipulate events, questioning whether people truly have free will or if they are doomed to repeat selfish mistakes. The test suggests that humanity is failing and ethical experiments. Stewart's connections to NASA and Mars hints at extraterrestrial interventions. His abilities and knowledge suggest that an advanced intelligence is observing and judging humanity's moral capacity. The film incorporates a religious theme, particularly the concept of divine testing. Arthur's choice mirrors biblical sacrifices, and Stewart's omnistic presence suggest a godlike being evaluating humanity worthiness. The ending is deliberately ambiguous, leaving audience to interrupt whether humanity is doomed to fail this moral test indefinitely. Stewart experiment seems to be a repeated cycle, suggesting that people, when forced with moral dilemma, will inevitably choose selfishly. Arthur's fate is left uncertain, but the implications is chilling. The next recipient of the box could determine his life or death, just as Norma's choice doomed another person's. The box is deeply philosophical and unsettling film that expands a simple short story into an intricate cosmic morality tale. It blends psychological horror with fiction themes, forcing viewers to confront ethical dilemmas and the large consequences of their choice. As its core, the box revolves around a moral test. Norma and Arthur Lewis, a middle class couple, receives a box with a button pressing it grants with $1 million but kills a stranger. This ethical dilemma serve as a foundation for a deeper, more convoluted exploration of human nature, free will, and alien intelligence. While the premise is compelling, the film loses itself in an excessive layer of mystery and surrealism. The original short story was straightforward, focusing on human selfishness, but the books expand it into a sprawling, sci narrative that involves NASA built mind controls, portals, and extraterrestrial experiments. While these elements add intrigues, they also dilute the impact of the initial moral questions. The pacing is uneven. The first acts strong, effectively building suspense and moral tension. However, the second half introduced so many cryptic subplots that the film feels bloated. By the time the final act arrives, the emotional weight of the dilemma is overshadowed by convoluted skiff elements. Diaz delivers a solid performance, portraying Norma's internal conflict convincingly. However, her southern accent feels inconsistent, which can be distracting. Despite this, she effectively conveys a woman trapped in an ethical nightmare. Marston gives a grounded performance as authors, a NASA scientist struggling to rationalize the irrational events unfolding around him. He plays the role well, but his characters sometimes feel passive, reacting rather than taking initiative. Langella steals the show as Arlington Stewart, the enigmatic man who delivers the box. His calm yet menacing presence add a chilling edge to the film. The disfigured half of his face enhances his airy, otherworldly demeanor, reinforcing the film's creepy horror atmosphere. The film raises deep philosophical questions. Would you prioritize personal gains over an unknown life? Do humans have free will? Are they destined to repeat selfish mistakes? Kelly excels at creating an unsettling mood. The 1970s setting, muted color palette, and slow burns tensions makes the film visually captivating. The subtle use of horror elements, such as the blank stares of possessed individuals, adds a layer of dread. The film starts with a gripping moral dilemma and suspenseful build up. The tension between Norma and Arthur as they debate pressing the button is compelling, making the audience question what they would do in their place. Weaknesses, overcomplicated plot, perhaps beings as simple ethical experiment spirals into a convoluted web of supernaturals and sci-fi elements, NASA conspiracy, Mars missions, water portals, and mind control citizens clutters the narratives, making it difficult to stay emotionally invested. After engaging first act, the film slows down with lengthy, cryptic sequences that add confusion rather than suspense. The story gets bogged down in expositions, heavy moments that feel disconnected from the core dilemma. Norma and Arthur's relationship lack depth, while they share emotional moments. The film prioritizes mystery over character development. Their son Walters also feels more like a plot device than a fully realized character.